I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection like I was about to walk onto a stage instead of into a ballroom. My hands smoothed down the silky fabric of my dress for the 10th time, as if the nervous flutter in my stomach would calm if everything on the outside looked perfect. It had been over a decade since I walked across that graduation stage, and tonight I was walking back into a world of memories, our college reunion. I couldn't believe how jittery I felt. After all these years, why did it still matter what people thought of me? I had built a good life, married once, divorced now, successful enough in my career, independent and wiser. But a part of me still felt like that 22-year-old girl searching for approval, for connection, for something more. And beneath it all, buried deep but still burning quietly, was the thought of him. Michael. Even thinking his name sent a rush through me. He had been my closest friend in college, the one I'd laughed with during late-night study sessions, the one I'd secretly wanted but never dared to touch. Life had pulled us in different directions. He married young, I moved cities, and somehow we never crossed paths again. Still, I sometimes caught myself wondering, what if? With a final deep breath, I grabbed my clutch, slipped on my heels, and left for the reunion. The event was held at a luxury hotel ballroom, and the moment I stepped inside, a wave of nostalgia hit me. The warm hum of conversation, the faint notes of music playing, the clinking of glasses. It was like stepping into a time capsule, only everyone was older, sharper, dressed in elegant suits and gowns instead of jeans and hoodies. Clusters of people gathered, their laughter loud and familiar. I spotted faces I hadn't seen in years. Melissa with her infectious laugh, Derek who used to always borrow my notes, Sophie, who had been my roommate. Hugs were exchanged, stories spilled out quickly, and compliments about how you haven't aged a bit flew around the room like confetti. I tried to stay present, smiling, laughing, catching up with old friends, but part of me was scanning the crowd, searching. And then I saw him. Michael. He stood near the bar, holding a glass of whiskey, his posture casual yet confident. Time had done incredible things to him. His hair, once a mess of boyish waves, was now neatly styled, with just a hint of gray at the temples that only made him more striking. He was taller than I remembered, broad-shouldered, with that same easy charm radiating from him. And when his eyes swept the room and landed on me, I felt my breath catch. That smile. God, that smile could melt me even now. For a moment, it felt like no time had passed at all. His eyes widened in recognition, and he set his glass down, weaving through the crowd until he was in front of me. Linda? His voice was rich, deeper than I remembered, but unmistakably his. Michael. My lips curved into a smile, and I hoped it didn't give away how my pulse had just leapt. It's been forever. Too long, he said, his eyes scanning my face like he was memorizing me all over again. You look incredible. Really? Just like I remember. Heat rushed my cheeks, and I laughed softly, trying to play it cool. You're not so bad yourself. Looks like life's treated you well. He chuckled, and when his hand briefly touched my arm in a casual, familiar gesture, a shiver ran through me. That one touch was enough to awaken years of buried longing, and I suddenly knew the night ahead was going to be far more dangerous than I'd expected. We drifted away from the main crowd, settling into a quieter corner near the bar. The soft glow of golden lights reflected off Michael's glass, and every time he looked at me, I felt the years melt away. It was like being 20 again, only this time, the stakes felt higher, heavier, more intoxicating. So, I asked, swirling the wine in my glass to distract myself from how close he was standing, what's life been like for you since graduation? Last I heard, you'd gotten married. He nodded, his expression flickering with something I couldn't quite read. I did. For a while. But it didn't last. We divorced a few years ago. Life had other plans, I guess. There was a softness in his voice, a quiet vulnerability. My chest tightened. I understand, I said, offering a small smile. I've been there too. Our eyes met, and for a brief second, the noise of the reunion seemed to fade, leaving just the two of us standing in that small pocket of memory and possibility. He leaned a little closer, his voice lowering. Seeing you tonight, it's like I'm back in college. Do you remember those nights we used to study in the library until they kicked us out? I laughed, the sound bubbling out of me naturally. Of course. You'd always get distracted, start telling stories instead of focusing. I think I passed half my exams because you kept me awake with your rambling. His lips curved into a grin. Rambling? I like to think I was entertaining. You were, I admitted, feeling warmth spread through me. You always were. He tilted his head, his gaze dipping for a split second toward my lips before returning to my eyes. The tension between us was undeniable, like a spark dancing in the air, waiting for permission to ignite. As the evening wore on, we mingled with others, but somehow we kept finding our way back to each other. Little moments, stolen glances across the room, laughter that belonged only to us. Every time he brushed past me, his hand grazing my back or his shoulder bumping mine, my body hummed with awareness. Later, when the music slowed and couples drifted toward the dance floor, Michael extended his hand toward me. Dance with me? I hesitated only a second before slipping my hand into his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and steady, and he led me to the center of the room. The band played a soft, nostalgic tune, and as he drew me close, I caught the familiar scent of his cologne, different than in college, more mature, but still him. The world around us blurred. His hand rested lightly on my waist, and I laid mine against his chest, feeling the strong, steady beat of his heart under my palm. We swayed slowly, our eyes locked, and for a moment, it was as though time hadn't passed at all. He said quietly, his breath warm against my ear, I used to want this back then. To hold you like this. My chest tightened, my breath catching. You never said anything. I didn't have to, he murmured, pulling me just a little closer. But I wanted you, Linda. More than you knew. The confession sent a rush of heat through me, and suddenly every repressed memory, every what-if, every almost kiss from years ago came flooding back. I lifted my head, searching his face, and the hunger in his eyes mirrored my own. The dance ended, but neither of us moved away. His thumb stroked lightly over my hand, and he leaned in just enough that I felt the whisper of his breath. Come with me, he said softly. There's something I've wanted to tell you for years. I didn't ask where. I didn't need to. My heart was already answering for me. Michael led me through the edge of the ballroom, weaving past clusters of laughing classmates until we slipped into the hallway. The noise dulled behind us, replaced by the soft hum of distant music and the quiet thrum of my own heartbeat. Where are we going? I whispered, though I didn't really care about the answer. He glanced over his shoulder, his lips curving into that same mischievous smile I remembered from college. Someplace quieter. Just you and me. We passed through a side corridor, eventually stepping into a small lounge with dim lighting and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. The skyline glittered outside like a sea of stars, and the room was empty, silent except for the faint echo of music from afar. Michael closed the door behind us and turned, his eyes locking on mine with an intensity that made my breath hitch. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The years of distance, the weight of all that had been left unsaid, pressed down on us like gravity. Finally, he broke the silence. I need to be honest with you. His voice was low, steady, but filled with something raw. I've thought about you more times than I can admit. Back in college, I wanted you so badly. But I was too scared, too stupid to say it. The confession hit me like a spark against dry kindling. My throat tightened, my body aching with recognition. Michael, I don't want to waste more time pretending, he continued, stepping closer. The moment I saw you tonight, it all came rushing back. I still want you, Linda. Maybe even more than I did back then. My chest rose and fell, my pulse thundering in my ears. For years I had wondered if I'd imagined the tension, the late-night stares, the lingering touches. To hear him finally say it, it broke something loose inside me. I wanted you too, I whispered, my voice trembling but certain. I wanted you every single day back then. And seeing you now, God, It feels like all those feelings never left. Something in his eyes shifted, darkened with need. He closed the last inches between us, his hand lifting to brush a strand of hair from my face. His touch lingered, his thumb grazing my cheek, and the electricity that passed through me was undeniable. "Tell me to stop, and I will," he murmured, his forehead almost touching mine. "But if you don't—" I didn't let him finish. My lips met his, desperate, hungry, years of suppressed desire exploding all at once. The kiss was searing, his mouth claiming mine with a force that made my knees weak. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. I moaned softly against his lips, the sound escaping before I could stop it. His tongue teased mine, slow at first, then deeper, more demanding, as if he'd been starving and I was the only thing that could satisfy him. When we finally broke apart, gasping, his forehead rested against mine. "God, Linda," he whispered. "Do you know how long I've waited for this?" I clutched at his shirt, breathless, trembling. "Too long." His lips traced down to my jaw, then to the sensitive skin just beneath my ear. My body arched involuntarily, heat flooding through me as his hands roamed lower, possessive yet reverent. The city lights shimmered outside, but all I could see, all I could feel, was him. In that dim, private room, time stopped. Every unspoken word, every repressed memory, every forbidden desire that had once been locked away now burned freely between us. And I knew this night was only just beginning. Michael's lips trailed lower, pressing soft, heated kisses down my neck. My breath caught as his hand slid along my waist, pulling me flush against him. Every nerve in my body tingled, awakened after years of dormancy. I had dreamed of this moment in secret for so long, yet the reality of it was overwhelming, raw, consuming, unstoppable. "Michael," I whispered, my fingers curling into his shirt. I didn't want to think about consequences, or what tomorrow might bring. All I wanted was him. He pulled back just enough to search my face, his chest rising and falling heavily. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice rough, threaded with restraint. "Because if I start, I won't want to stop." The truth surged through me like fire. "I don't want you to stop." That was all it took. His mouth captured mine again, this time with no hesitation, no holding back. The kiss deepened, urgent, our mouths moving together in a rhythm that spoke of years of pent-up desire. His hands roamed my body with a mix of reverence and hunger, memorizing every curve as though he'd been waiting for this chance his entire life. I felt myself pressed gently against the cool glass of the window, the city lights sparkling around us like witnesses to our secret. His body fit against mine perfectly, solid and warm, every line of him aligning with every ache inside me. His fingers tangled in my hair, tilting my head so he could devour my mouth more deeply, his tongue teasing, coaxing, igniting me. My own hands moved boldly, exploring the breadth of his shoulders, the strength of his chest beneath the fabric of his shirt. He groaned into my mouth when my touch slid lower, my nails dragging lightly along his back, sending shivers through him. The sound of his desire made heat pool low in my belly, my body already desperate for more. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes dark with need. "God, Linda, you're everything I wanted back then and so much more now." I barely had time to breathe before he kissed me again, harder, more demanding, as though he couldn't get enough. His hands slid lower, gripping my hips, pressing me even closer against him. I gasped as I felt the undeniable evidence of his desire, hard and insistent, and the sound only drove him wilder. We stumbled toward the plush couch in the corner, our lips never parting, our bodies tangled in a frenzy of rediscovered passion. When he lowered me gently onto the cushions, his weight pressed over mine, I felt a rush of heat unlike anything I'd ever known. It wasn't just lust, it was the weight of years of longing finally set free. "Linda," he whispered against my lips, his hand brushing over my cheek with surprising tenderness even as his body trembled with need. "I don't want this to be just one night." My heart clenched, even as my body burned. "Then don't let it be." Our mouths crashed together again, sealing the promise as we gave in completely to the fire that had been waiting between us all these years. Clothes were shed in a desperate blur, skin meeting skin, every touch electric. His lips and hands explored me with both urgency and reverence, as if he couldn't decide whether to worship me or devour me. And when we finally came together, breathless, trembling, needing, it felt inevitable, like the closing of a circle that had begun so many years ago. His body moved with mine, strong and steady, and I clung to him as waves of heat and pleasure consumed me. Every kiss, every moan, every whispered confession was a release of all the years we'd been apart. And when we finally collapsed together, tangled in each other's arms, the city lights shimmering beyond the glass, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Michael pressed a soft kiss to my forehead, his breath still ragged. "I'm not letting you go this time," he murmured. Tears stung my eyes, but they were happy ones, full of hope and relief. I smiled against his chest, my heart thundering with certainty.
"Good.
Because I don't want you to." The reunion had brought us back together, but what we found that night was more than nostalgia. It was a second chance, one we weren't going to waste. As I lay in his arms, my body still humming from the intensity of what we'd shared, I realized something profound. Sometimes life circles back, giving us exactly what we once lost, only at the moment we're finally ready to keep it. And for the first time in years, I felt whole.